Hey, and welcome to another episode of Please Welcome, the last episode of Season 1. Today I'm joined by Don Swanson, Chris Garritano. They were on the first episode, so if you want to know more about them, they're a little bit of info, go back and watch the first episode. They're all wearing hats because...
We're making fun of them.
Yeah, they're making fun of me for wearing a hat
Idea.
because they're lame, you know. So first off, I want to say one thing to you both. I want to thank you guys for letting this whole show be possible by allowing us to shoot in here and make something creative and have fun with it. And I appreciate that from both of you. But we're here for one reason only, to ask you guys questions. So for the first question, I'd like to ask you guys, what's a piece of advice you'd give to somebody going into the field that you both went into, communications media? What would you guys give them, just as like just a heads up?
Don't.
Don't.
If you like money, don't do it.
Yeah.
Probably the classic, right? The classic being, make sure you enjoy it, make sure you love it, make sure you have a passion for it. Don't expect to make money out of the gate.
Yeah.
You know, communications media, regardless of the specific field you go into, because as you're well aware, it covers a wide variety of things, but none of them really drop you into a high-paying job right out of school.
No.
Now, if you're good at it, you stick with it for like 5-6 years, then you can get to a place where you're financially sound and doing all right.
I mean, we've said this a bunch of times. I know we said it on the first show. At least I'm pretty sure we did. Yeah. But if you're going to go into communications, go in with at least somewhat of an idea of what you want to do. Yeah. Focus your undergraduate work on that. Become a master at that. But know enough to be dangerous with everything else. And that's different from when we were in school, in that we didn't have the advanced digital gaming and the
VR.
Different, we didn't have all that stuff to actually kind of work with. It was more, you know, our audio classes were cassette tapes and
analog.
I mean, it was but it was still go in, get to know a little bit about everything, because you're going to need to know how to do it somewhere, and it makes you a million times more marketable. Yeah. You can always get on-the-job training, but you need to know, at least focus on.
You need a place to start.
Yeah.
And that's kind of the thing. The saying is, jack of all trades, master of none. Yes. In comm media, you got to be a jack of all trades and a master of one.
Yeah. Like that, like for example, like one of the classes that I had that you guys might not have had was the 3D animation stuff.
You saying we're old?
Yeah, I'm saying you're old, definitely. Yeah.
We are old.
No, but I had a Blender. I mean, I'm sure you guys have both heard of it. The 3D animation software, and there's a reason I didn't do well in that class, was because it was so difficult. I mean, for anybody who doesn't really know, like doing anything like in that, and if you like miss one thing, you're just gonna be behind, and that's for me was one thing. But the jack of all trades with Dr. Start at IUP. Whenever I had TV prod, he had us go through everything, and we all switched off, working the boards and doing all that, or being on floor and stuff, and working the floor as a studio manager and stuff like that. It was pretty neat. But yeah, definitely you won't make a lot of money out of the gate.
Not out of the gate.
I know that for a fact. It's a struggle, but it's definitely a struggle that's worth it. That's worth it in the end, I would say, because I love what I do, and you guys.
Well, that's why you got to have a passion
I don't want to
for
assume.
it, like a legitimate love for it.
Yeah.
And like I'll even kind of add on to that, because you said like what we went into. Okay, so obviously what we went into was communications. Then we went back and did education later. But if education is something you think you might want to do getting into this field,
it's a good side dish.
It is, and get some experience in the field doing something. Yeah. It will help. Anything that you can bring to the classroom that's beyond the textbook, that you can show students and pull from your own personal examples, whether that's stuff you do in college or stuff that you've done after you graduate college, is always beneficial too. So.
Yeah, I would say definitely teaching is a good way to go with communications, a good little side dish, as you guys said. I still will avoid it like the plague, even though Don says that it would probably be a good choice for me.
No, that's his age. I said the same thing.
Yeah. I swore off education
I swore I'd
altogether.
never be a teacher, too.
Yeah.
It took me 2 years into school to figure it out, but...
Yeah. I mean, it is something I like to do, but I don't know. It's so much more school That's the part that I don't like. Is actually
yeah.
going. Yeah.
There's a commitment there.
Yeah, there
but-
definitely is. But anyway, moving on to a question that you had a little bit of problem with thinking of. I hope you got your 2 movies now. But what
thinking.
2 movies? Let me give a little backstory first. I saw something on Instagram. It was originally on Twitter. It was what are the 8 movies that inspired the way you see storytelling in films now, and even in your own personal. Yeah,
That's
and
his answer to this.
yeah, and
So-
I had answered
I
with
did
a
see
whole
this.
bunch of movies like Alien, Scream, Pirates of the Caribbean, Harry Potter, and The Thing, and stuff like that. I know the 2 movies, and I narrowed it down to 2 for you guys, so it's a little easier. But for me, 2 movies that I would say out of those 8 that really, for storytelling, have like affected me would be The Thing. You get a cast that is totally believable. They're real humans. Like you can see this happening like with real people. It's not just these characters or whatever. They seemed more real. So I saw like the way storytelling with building your characters and character development and things like that. And then probably Scream because it was so meta and it got itself and it got the genre. And that's what I really liked was it totally took all the cliches and like flipped them around to make it even better and not just a cliche, I guess to say.
Right.
But what 2 movies would you guys?
Well, I think A Christmas Story because it has the word story in it. No, in terms of like story, it's not as simple as a question as it seems on the surface. Because when you say story, are you talking about the actual narrative, or are you talking about the thing as a medium? And
As
telling the
a
story?
medium, just how would you see storytelling? Like,
Because I think that probably the best example that covers all of it kind of equally is The Godfather, in terms of the narrative and the imagery and the editing and the performance, like just captures everything perfectly. In terms of the medium, I got to go super old school and say Citizen Kane
yeah.
is just a visual masterpiece, even by today's standards. I think it is. Other ones that come to mind for me are probably like Psycho, Hitchcock's Psycho. I think is just a visual masterpiece. You know, like it tells the story, and I think even though the reputation with this one is the music makes the movie, I think that you can watch John Carpenter's Halloween and get sucked into the story.
Oh yeah.
And when I was in film school, that was one of the things that was kind of driven home to us was that you should be able to watch a movie with no sound and still be invested in the story because it is a visual medium.
I mean, for me, and these are movies that I mentioned, again, the first time we were here, but they tell a story in 2 different ways, and I'm looking at it more in how the story is being told and not the medium. But the first one is Shawshank Redemption, which there's just so much about that film that I love. And I don't, unfortunately, I don't have a ton of time to be able to see a lot of different films. But that's one that I always go back to. It's one that I've said, you know, I actually kind of taught to some students a few years ago when I had them more one-on-one doing different things with them. But I just like the way it tells the story, and that whole story takes place as being a narration by one of the 2 main characters, right?
Red.
Yeah, Red, because he's Irish. Right.
Morgan Freeman?
Yeah, that's what he said. Why they call me Red? I guess
I'm
it's because I'm Irish. Which was actually an inside joke. If you ever read the stuff about Shawshank and watch the movie, it's the inside joke from when the book was adapted. That was the joke in the book.
Yeah.
That Frank Darabont had adapted, and it became a point of irony because it was Morgan Freeman's character who said it. The other one, and to me, I loved everything about this film, is Slumdog Millionaire, because that whole movie technically takes place in the present time, but the whole story of it is explaining things that all happened in the past, but it's not narrated. So, you know, it's implied that the main character in that, who's on a Who Wants to Be a Millionaire type of show, it's implied that he's telling the story of how he knows the answers, and they do flashbacks between the 2 to explain that a little bit more, but it's letting the past explain it and not let it be narrated the whole time either. So when I look at it, those are two styles of being able to tell the story that were appealing to me because it gives a film more depth and more layers, and to me that's what I can really dig into when I have the time to do it. So.
Yeah. You know, and like kind of how you said about like some Slumdog Millionaires kind of told backwards, kind of like told in the past and through flashbacks and things like that. Not flashbacks, but told that way. It's kind of like if you looked at like Memento by Christopher Nolan. It's told totally backwards.
Memento?
Yeah.
Love it.
It's like it's a story that's told totally backwards. You know, of him trying to figure this out and stuff like that. It's like like if you see that in a lot of Christopher Nolan's, The Dark Knight Rises, they said that how did Batman get back to Gotham out of that hole that's all the way across the world that quick?
Right.
And he even said it in some interviews. He's like, who said that I was telling it in order, the story, you know?
Right.
And I think, it's kind of like that. You can, that's another movie. There's so many movies you could say. But,
Right, yeah.
I mean, you've seen my 8 that I chose. The Godfather was one of them. The Goonies was another.
Yeah.
Just how, like, it's, I don't know, I just wanted to get a pull from a bunch of different genres, too. But moving on, if you guys weren't teachers, if you guys weren't educators, what other job would you love to do?
I mean, me personally, it kind of takes two completely different paths. I've said before that and I was close to doing this, but I've said before that, like, I like working with my hands and creating. So from a different side as film or from communications would honestly be some kind of construction type field, to be honest with you.
Yeah.
I enjoy working mostly with learning things from my father-in-law, my dad, about how to work on my houses and stuff. It's things that I like to do. And I did work a job early when I was a teenager that was in construction a little bit, and I enjoyed a lot of that.
Yeah.
If I were going to stay in communications, and I've told my wife this before, if it weren't for having roots here, I would probably actively try to pursue living closer to a bigger city like New York or Los Angeles. And trying to get into being the producer somewhere, because in the field of communications, my favorite thing that I've done, and I've done a lot of different things at different levels, whether it's in college or outside, being on the production side of things, whether that's producing or doing a little bit of directing when it comes to TV and stuff like that. I really enjoyed that, and I had a chance to do that job for a news station for about a month and a half. And I enjoyed it, and I probably would have stayed with it if I hadn't been finishing my graduate degree. So,
I'd probably say, I'm pretty based on this, that I love teaching. I really do. So anything I'd want to do more is quote unquote pipe dream, and that's like professional writer director. If I were to do something completely unrelated, because in my view, those are all very related, like teaching, especially English, and, being a writer or a filmmaker and all that, I think is very much related. If I were going to do something entirely different, it'd be in the field of anthropology or archaeology.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Indiana
Jones.
Swanson.
So I was an anthro major.
yes.
For a while.
That'd be awesome.
My senior yearbook says my future plans were to go to WVU for archaeology.
Would that be, oh gosh, why am I blanking on his name? The little boy that is in these, in Temple of Doom.
Short round?
Yeah,
Yeah.
I'd be short round. I'd be your
Sure,
short round.
you can be my short round. You got the hat.
Yeah,
so.
yeah, exactly. Except it just needs to be a baseball. I can't even remember what. It's a baseball team.
Like a
specific.
Dodgers hat, I
Yeah,
think.
I was gonna say. So you guys are teachers, and we got a little way away from that, but I want to bring it back. Is there any moment so far in your career in teaching that you've been like what's your proudest moment? Is it seeing it even in a student, or is it just goals you've met?
Can tell you my biggest disappointment is sitting right across from me right now.
He is a jerk.
I know.
Technically, wasn't even your student. So
I know,
can't
he
really-
weren't even mine. How'd this happen? I have several. One of my personal highs for me, completely personally, was giving the graduation speech at Katanning High School in 2013. For me, just on a personal level. But as much, if not more, there have been students over the years, whether they're mine or somebody else's, that have really raised the bar on their own, not just met my expectations and surpassed them. Noah, being one.
I really didn't want you to say
Corey Heika being another. Cameron Smith being another. Trying to like go through the Rolodex back and back and back. Shannon Walker was one. David Damrath was one. I guess Joey and Haley.
Not graduated.
They're not graduated yet, so they get nothing yet. But anytime for me personally, anytime that with the TV stuff in particular, because it is an elective, and as a teacher, I'm not stupid. As a teacher, I'm not stupid. An elective's an elective. Most kids take an elective for a couple of reasons. Fill their schedule, think it might be kind of interesting or fun. That's really it.
Yeah.
And it's through that kids usually learn if they are into it or not. So you can't expect more than a handful of kids to really catch fire with it. So as it is, it usually ends up year after year, there's a couple kids that really catch the fire. The majority of them like it, and they enjoy it and do all right with it. And then there's a handful that just, you don't even know why they're there. And they're not even sure why they're there. So anytime you see the kid catch fire with it, and I mean really catch fire with it, is inspiring and very rewarding. Also for me, anytime, there's a saying that teaching is one of the professions where you don't get to see the outcome of your work, which is very true to a certain degree. So anytime that you know in one shape or form or another that you've actually positively impacted a kid, whether it be academically, socially, emotionally, whatever it happens to be. Anytime that you can tell that, wow, I actually meant something here, or something I did changed something here. That's probably the biggest reward of all. And that also kind of covers everything else, because the kids that catch fire usually have those moments with them because, it's my passion and it's your passion. So during the course of that, you're usually going to get that opportunity, or something like that.
I'd say for me on a personal level is just, I'm not technically teaching, yet. I do get to work with the students a lot, but I think on a personal level for me, it has been over the last couple of years where I'm working with the students more, just from the nature of being in the building with them. And actually, you could say that I owe a lot of that to me being back in school now for my teaching certificate, because it kind of helped show me that, this is the next step that I want to take. And inevitably, I was going to have to take one, whether that was within the district or not. So from that level, it was when students started recognizing me as somebody that they could go to and get help from. So there's kind of a certain level of, I don't know if satisfaction is the right word or self-worth is the right word. It's
validation, maybe.
Validation. Yeah. It's not like I need that validation, but it helps to think that the students respect you enough and think enough of you to, that they ask for that help. Yeah. From a standpoint of what students accomplish, it's just the moments where the students come back to us and say, I went into this field because of what I learned in school and because I got the opportunities and the experiences that I had here. And there have been a handful of those, and some classes, especially more recently, that I've gotten closer and know better than others. But I knew obviously you when you were in school, and I knew Corey a little bit when he was in school, but I didn't get to work with you guys as much one-on-one. David Damrath a little bit more, and I'll be honest, and it's not because they're here, it's just because I truly believe it. Out of the students that I've gotten to know on a different level, the ones that we've had that impact on are sitting in the control room right now, and Joey and Haley. And the sky's the limit for what they want to do. Well, I mean, they're the first people, or the first students in our district that won at a state competition for a video, and it's now going to be screened and reviewed nationally among their peers. And they're going to go into communications, and they're so good at what they do already and have such a good grasp on it that I'm really excited to see what they're going to do with their future as well. Yeah. And so from my own experiences with students that I've gotten to know while they were in high school, I'd say that pretty much it's got to be up there. And we had a couple last year as well. That
You have a couple every year.
that were really good and took it to a different level, but those two have taken it beyond that and basically have been interns for the entire school year. So
Yeah, congratulations to you guys out there. Seriously.
I'll add this onto it because I thought of when you were speaking there. It's something you said kind of jarred it. One thing I have enjoyed over the years is a kid goes into this either directly or indirectly, and they come back and tell you that something they learned off of you gave them an edge up.
right.
Like I've had different kids tell me they impressed their professors because they were able to say Jaws was the first blockbuster.
Yeah.
You
That's
know,
funny.
or certain kids that go to college and are like too advanced for these stupid level 100 classes they have to take.
I could not stand them.
Hey, listen, that's
seriously.
that's a compliment, though.
compliment.
I mean, we've designed when Swanson started the program here. It was fortunate because he had a TV studio that donated some high-end equipment.
Yeah.
But the goal, and it's a shared goal when I came in, that I shared with the TV production teachers at Ford City, West Shamokin, and Katanning, and now Armstrong and West Shamokin. It's a shared goal. When we built the studio, this was a collaboration. It wasn't just me. And the idea and the goal, if you want to call it our motto or message or whatever, is that we wanted to set the bar high for public school, so that our kids are ready to go in and have that step above. And one of your own professors, well, you may not have had Dr. Wilson. I don't know if you had her in the comm department or not.
I didn't. Yeah.
But she came to me one time and then to Don and said, what can we do
To line better with you.
Yeah, basically. Because there were kids going into the programs, and it wasn't just us. It's other high schools as well. But you guys are going in so much more prepared. And, from that standpoint, that's something that I take pride in for the job that I specifically have. I think that's something you take pride in. I hope that it's something, and I got to thank our administration for supporting it. Both central office and building level. Because it's a collaborative effort from everybody to provide them. So
that's been a through line since the beginning, honestly, to set the bar high, to be the standard, and to basically compete with the colleges, not other high schools. We wanted to compete, maybe not directly, but we wanted to be seen more as we're doing what the colleges are doing as opposed to what high schools are doing. That's been the idea since the beginning.
And correct me if I'm wrong, but when you were in the position I'm in now, you had school district out of New York contact you, right?
New York City.
New York City
Public. And Pittsburgh Public, both of them.
About they saw what we did here, what he did here, and they were trying to model it after that. And then it was earlier this year, I believe it was a school out of New Jersey. That contacted me for the exact same reasons. So, we're doing something right here.
For example, whenever I went to IUP and I had Dr. Start for television production, just basic level, it was like I was raising my hand to answer everything. Like, what kind of microphone is this? How does the microphone work? What's omnidirectional? What's just directional? And I was able to raise my hand, and I seemed like to be the only one. It was either A, because people just didn't want to talk, or B, they just didn't know.
Right.
And so I definitely felt more prepared. And even my class, Comm 150, where we had to make an animation and things like that, it seemed like my group, we were, depending on the work that you did on the first project, depending on the kinds of people you were with. If you were an A student, you were with the other A students. If you were an F, you got drugged down with other Fs. And my group was the A students. And we really seemed prepared, and we worked together well. We put out a little short animation, and we came in third. And it wasn't even graded by our professor; it was graded by first and second graders, and we had to fit criteria and meet for them. And I think we did a lot of good work there, and we were all prepared, especially. And I think we got a good group there. So now here's a little bit of a question, kind of on topic, but a little bit off topic, because it could pertain to your job now. If you won the lottery, what would you do with it? Like, what would you do if you won?
I got this. If I won the lottery, I would keep teaching, but I would come in and do and say whatever I wanted to do and say to whoever I wanted to do it to or say it to. And I would see how long it took them to fire me. That would be Swanson Unfiltered. If I won the lottery. I love teaching, I really do, but there are moments
Yeah.
with students and peers and other staff members that sometimes I just want to do and say certain things that you just
I mean, anytime
can't.
you're with people long enough, even friends,
yeah.
you're gonna nerves are gonna be struck. It's the nature of it.
Yeah.
So I don't. If I hit the lottery, I think I know that I would be bored staying at home because there are times that even in the summer that that I'll sit there and I'm like, well, okay. I mean, it's not that I'm not busy, but usually by the time the school year starts, I'm pretty much charged up enough and ready to go back. I don't think that I would leave the school district. I would want to keep working. I think that my tolerance for certain things wouldn't be quite as high, because knowing that
you don't have to put up with it at the end of the day.
See,
you're saying the same thing I said.
I'm
more eloquently.
I'm not just going to go right out there. But either way, I will say this: I owe a lot to the school district for bringing me on and giving my first real career and providing a place where I want to stay and having good friends and colleagues. And really, at the end of the day, you got to like where you work, or work is work. So I enjoy being here, and I probably would find some way to donate something back to the school district. Probably keep it in the English communications department, or maybe just arts as a broad stroke, because arts are something that obviously is the first thing to kind of get trimmed back when schools have to do that. But I wouldn't stop working just because I won. It would take more than that for me to stop doing that. But I mean, there's other things that back when the Powerball was through the roof that we talked about what would we do with it that I could go into. But the long and the short of it is I would stay here and keep working. And
I certainly have plans, but I wouldn't just walk away.
Now here's as an English teacher, was that just a little bit of a plagiarism? Because no, it's
well, he didn't do it verbatim. So.
The exact
words around.
There was a meme or whatever that was like, hey, here's my homework. Don't copy it word for word or whatever. And it's a news broadcaster, which is like you change two different broadcasts and they just change the words around, like literally the sentence.
Literally
and
the
that's
same
it.
thing. Yeah.
But I don't know why I laughed. Like it just seemed like the same. Anyway, if I had won the lottery, the first thing I would probably do is I'd buy a really nice camera, a really nice laptop, and then a really nice ticket to somewhere really, really nice. And then I'd probably just take photos and videos while I'm there, just get everything, and then edit something up. And I don't know. There's a lot I would do. I'd probably buy a red camera right away.
Yeah, that'd be on the top of my list too.
So I could go, hey, Swanson, here's the red camera. I know you want it $54,000. And I'm like,
I don't know much about the whole, obviously I learned a lot during the making of Worcester Giants, right?
Yeah.
But I got a little bit of a taste of it because I just couldn't be as committed to it. If I had won the lottery, and even if an opportunity does come up in the future to do something like that again, I would 100% go back into it.
Yeah.
And I would try to make sure that my time is much more dedicated to being there more often. But I probably would take some of that money and try to finance some kind of an independent film with him, because he already knows how to do it. I don't. I would be on the backside, not breathing over his shoulder, just saying, hey, what's next? You need the boom pole to go up? Or,
well, that's a good thing, because I have a short film that we're still trying to figure out.
I know. Your weekend that I didn't respond, but I couldn't have done it anyway.
Yeah, well, we'll figure it out. Probably for next month, we'll find a day, which is stay tuned for that one, because it's pretty good. Pretty good. That's about the only word I got from Swanson on the script.
It's all right.
But,
it's all right.
It's aight. It's aight.
It's fine.
It's fine. It's fine.
No, but so we always have a segment every single time. It's Netflix and Tell is what I like to call it. So we kind of talked about it a little bit before. What movies or what TV shows are you currently watching or have watched, or
Well,
even just movies in general?
Last time I watched Netflix with Chris, we didn't really do so much watching.
Oh my gosh, this joke again. Real quick, let me stop you.
Well,
it doesn't have to
so
just
we
be on
were
Netflix.
reviewing the film, okay? We were notes.
Okay.
Yes,
Yeah,
so many notes.
How do we take this and use it as a learning tool?
yeah.
I actually do
I'm
have
sure.
an answer for this.
Actually, you know what's funny? I've done that before with Fantastic Beasts and Where to Find Them. I sat there and wrote out every beat to the film. And it's funny because I'm a geek like that.
Listen,
Like,
I want
I'm a
to punch
nerd.
you right now. I love you. but- No, I do have an answer for this. I recently watched an independent film made by a filmmaker from Texas named David Ford, who is connected to Wish for Giants insofar as he made Something in the Woods and is the actor on the TV in the hospital scene with Roxy. And I think it was Mr. Joe Fishel, actually, is the one that kind of turned me on to this newest thing or whatever. And it wasn't on Netflix.
Yeah.
I hope that's okay. It was on Amazon
No, that's
Prime.
fine. That's I say Netflix until, but you can talk about any movie that just came out or anything like that.
But just as like a legitimate independent film, I just watched that recently.
Yeah.
And it is an improvement over the first effort, and it's an independent film.
Yeah.
But that's the most recent thing I watched. Yeah. Now on my Netflix, what I really need to watch is season 2 of Jessica Jones.
Oh, so yeah,
I'm saving that until I can
started
watch it
it.
pretty much in one night.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Pretty good choice.
My wife and I like to find different series and just binge watch the crap out of them. So we literally finished last night, and the most recent thing that I've watched, which isn't recent at all, is The Office, because that's all on Netflix. All right?
I hate The Office.
The first season was a struggle. Now, we were warned the first season would be a
Yes,
struggle
it's
on that.
slow. Yeah.
But once you get through the first season, it picks up. And you're talking about storytelling before, and that popped into my head because of the way that whole show was done. It's really done as the whole show, when you sit back for if you think about it, the whole thing's a documentary from the producing side of it. But they tell it in a way that doesn't make it seem, it blends itself together.
Oh yeah.
But we literally finished the last episode last night at like 10:30.
Yeah.
Like anything, when you finish a series, you're left a little bit empty in your soul and
Yes.
wondering what's next. So we are now in search of what our next series is going to be. But as far as getting out there and seeing anything independent or Netflix originals, there's some stuff out there that I'd like to watch. I haven't done it, but probably one of the most interesting things that is out there now, it's on Hulu. And to be honest with you, I do not remember the name of it, but basically it's the premise of 9/11.
Oh.
It's the story behind 9/11, the untold truth behind 9/11.
Yeah.
It's done supposedly with uncovered factual information. I don't have a Hulu account. I'm borrowing my sister-in-law's when I have time. So I haven't started that yet, but that is what is next for me. And I'll probably wait at this point until school's out, until I'm out of school so I can watch over the summer, or until the Stanley Cup playoffs are over.
Man, don't even talk about that. It's nail-biting stuff right there.
Riveting.
I don't know if I gave the plug or not, but for David Ford's one that's on Amazon Prime, and like I said, it's very much an independent film, but it's fairly decent for an independent film. It's called, oh God.
That's it right there.
It's a good title.
No,
Good title,
it's
right?
called Sense of Urgency. A Sense of Urgency, that's what it's called.
Oh, God could have gone with that.
Yeah. Oh God, with a sense of urgency.
With a sense of urgency.
See, I'll tell you, I recently watched 2 movies. One was really, really good, and one was really, really bad, and that's usually how it goes every time I tell people what I've been watching. One that I didn't see in theaters was Alien Covenant. It's not bad. I just didn't like it. I just thought it was a little bit too much. Just like the whole creation and things like that. Like if you haven't seen it, I won't spoil anything for you. But the characters, it seemed just a little weird to me. It didn't really keep my interest either. But the movie that did keep my interest, I actually saw with David when it came out, was A Quiet Place with John Krasinski and Emily
Speaking
Blunt.
of The Office.
Yeah. And okay, I'll also get this out of the way first. The Office, I don't like it, but I can appreciate it. I just am not there for
There's
dry
a certain
humor
sense of
and
humor
stuff.
with
Yeah.
that.
Yeah,
that you
it's
have
dry
to
Dry
humor.
do.
sense
not-
of-
yeah.
Well, the documentary style of The Office is like what makes it meta.
Right.
Yeah.
It's not so
Yeah.
much about the documentary style, it's about the meta.
And I can appreciate that they do that and they
Self-awareness.
blend it well, and it like doesn't even feel like a documentary or a mockumentary or whatever.
Having said that, I would expect John/Jim to look at the camera and make a face in a quiet place.
That's
the
exactly
monster
right.
stuff.
You'd probably be sitting there
Yeah.
waiting for that.
Yeah, he's like, doing that. There is kind of a scene like that, except it's not breaking the fourth wall. No,
I would lose
he-
it if he did that.
He looks straight. No, he looks straight and he yells. It's not even funny at all. It's actually a really heart-wrenching part of the film. But it's just I was kind of waiting for that moment where like
For
the,
Jim to
the
pop up.
creature the creature goes where the creature goes and he like the creature's running at him and he's just like and gets eaten or
Dwight
something.
pops up.
But
Yes, definitely. Dwight would definitely pop up.
there's actually a trailer out. I don't know if you guys saw it. They take parts of The Quiet Place and The Office. It's a scene where like the building's set on fire and everybody's running around and stuff like that, and mixed with that. But it's funny. I'll have to link it to you guys. But with The Quiet Place, it's like how you said earlier. You should still be invested in a story even without like sound or anything like that. And with A Quiet Place, sound plays a giant role because you're even afraid. Like, and I read an article that says A Quiet Place, how the sound designers made you scared of yourself making a sound, and it was like I didn't even want to eat the popcorn because it was like I was that quiet.
Well, and that's the thing too. Like sound also involves a lack of sound.
Yeah.
When it comes to like a movie or
and that's what
something
this
like that,
was, and it was just a lack of sound. But if you got rid of the sound altogether, you can still appreciate this film for just like the visuals, and you can tell what the story is. The creature's really, really interesting, and I think they've set up for a sequel, and it's actually in the talks about a sequel or a prequel, whatever direction they want to go. It's Hollywood, so they're gonna take out like 7 of these, and then it'll get old, and then it'll come a new thing. But I think it was a really, really good movie. I liked it. I enjoyed it. I'll probably buy it on DVD. And John Krasinski can be my dad because he's just a cool dad. He's a cool father figure. He just has this big burly beard. It's just like, dude, he's so cool.
You're saying about a movie you liked and that you didn't like.
Yeah.
I recently there's in the late 60s to early 70s there was a run of female cult B movie vampire movies. Were like kind of like part horror, borderline exploitation, but it was like a whole sub-genre thing. And my favorite one out of the bunch was called Vampires, and they did a remake. And I actually watched the remake as I was reclaiming my office for 6 hours yesterday.
Yeah.
And I'm watching the remake and like, this isn't bad. Well, since it took me 6 hours to reclaim my office yesterday, I had the old one on VHS.
Yeah.
And I still have hooked in my editor at home a dual deck with a VHS set. So I put it on and like, man, the original is so much better.
Yeah.
Like so
Yeah.
much. I mean,
Well,
it's like from 1974, and it's like I watched the remake first. I'm like, all right, yeah, I'm into this. This is all right. And then I watched the one from like 50 years ago or whatever, and like, they should have never.
Yeah.
Yeah. The
never
only
touched this.
remake in recent memory that I can think of that's actually almost worth the same as the originals, if not better, was Stephen King's It. Because it didn't really like if you've seen the Poltergeist remake, it's awful. It's awful, so bad.
Remakes
but,
generally are.
Yeah, they usually are, but this one wasn't. It was just a retelling, really. It was really, really good. But besides that, if you don't have a movie, then we'll move on to the next question. I didn't really set you up.
I don't really have anything.
I didn't really set you up for it. He just ended up going off on it, so I was like, "Hey, Chris, if you want."
Film-wise,
Yeah.
no, not
Yeah,
really.
yeah. So now here's a question. I kind of already asked you this, but I'm gonna ask it again because whenever I make these questions, I try to push it to where how can I boost my ego? Oop, I hit my mic. How can I boost my ego
not hitting your
the
mic?
most? I just like how can I do it? So I ask you questions that I know I'm gonna bait you into to say something about me. No, I'm kidding. But this question, don't. I'm totally not kidding actually. Anyway, so the actual question is, and I have the John Krasinski. I hate you. Wait, here I'll get mine. Not as good. But the question is, as educators, is there a moment a student really like blew you away, like went above and beyond what you would see any student do?
You know what's interesting about this? I had this conversation with Joey and Haley yesterday, I think after school, and saying, you know, if you're looking in terms of a current student, Joey and Haley have exceeded anyone else I've ever had as a student.
Yeah.
In that regard. Now, if you're talking about people that I've had as students who have continued, you know, with me in some shape or form beyond, I'd have to say Corey Heika, David Damrath. What was that kid's name? Remember that kid?
Mm-hmm.
And the other kid? Yeah. That kid, too.
He had a twin brother.
Yeah, he did have a twin brother with a broken nose.
Yeah, and
but,
he did something like, I think he went out of his way to go down to the junior high and get like coax cables and like a whole TriCaster to record the musical live his senior year.
Yeah.
He did it pretty much by himself with the help of Pat Kavanaugh and Jake Martin.
I
think I know who you're talking about.
it's
really
like this
good looking
kid desperately wanted me and also you as the year went on to acknowledge that he was good at this stuff.
Oh yeah, that's right. That's right.
Yeah, like
yeah.
What was he? He was so did kind of.
I mean, he did all right.
He had a really good smile. He was really attractive kid.
Yeah, but then he turned into this complete goofball.
Yeah, and then he went through the freshman 15. And
started wearing hats backwards.
Wearing hats backwards.
No, I mean, as students in real time, I mean, obviously you were an amazing student. You weren't even mine.
Yeah.
But, you know, you were coming to me all of the time, you know, showing me what you were working on, asking me what I thought about and all that. And Corey was kind of a quiet student, but he was a very dedicated and serious student. David was David. You know, but I mean, took it very seriously, you know, took it very seriously as well. And even last year, Hannah and Sierra, you know, took it seriously and everything. But within the realms of while they're a student, Joey and Haley have just gone places that no one else has gone before. And that's no put down on anybody that's come before them. It's just opportunities that were presented to them as students that did not exist before. But you know this, you, Corey, and David.
Got to plug us because we're the best. Wait, can I get on my camera real quick? I'm going to do 2015. Dab. Is there a moment? I'm so sorry. But anyway, is there a moment where you've seen...
I mean...
Yeah, go ahead and talk about me for another
like I said, I didn't really get to know students more one-on-one because I was at the junior high, and I didn't work with junior high students, so I didn't really get to know them as well until the last 3 years.
Yeah.
You know, you had a few in each of those years that kind of, even the ones that were surprising at what they accomplished. Not that they were bad kids, they were just kids that sometimes were hard to get focused on doing things.
You didn't expect it.
And then all of a sudden they pull this out and it's like, that's actually really good. It seemed like you were blowing it off the whole time, but no, you did a good job with it.
I feel like we were talking about a couple of those kids just before the camera started rolling.
I think so, yes. Yes, we were.
We won't mention names now, but yeah, we were definitely talking about
reminiscing about foods that were left in here for different videos. And
like imagine if you like tried more than a day before it was due, because that is pretty freaking amazing.
Yeah,
you just
what you just pulled out is like, wait, how in the world did you do that?
Yeah.
I mean, I basically got to echo a lot of what Don said about what Haley and Joey did, which is really just it was a lot born out of the fact that we have independent studies that they can take now.
Oh yeah.
And
the facilities
that we have available. Yeah. Faculty and staff recognizing that we have students that are capable of doing this and bringing different things to us, like the AUX competition that they won the video,
which was actually brought to us by Mr. Ed Bauer, retired teacher who used to teach TV at Katanning. And honestly, to be completely fair, you got to give a little bit of a credit to David and Hannah, because David and Hannah kind of like solidified the legitimacy here in this new building, because David won the scholarship for the Art Institute, and then Hannah won the scholarship.
Yeah.
You know, and then
in consecutive years.
It kind of like, I think that you put them all together for this school in particular, because coming out of Red School, obviously there was you.
Say its name. Say its name. Say his name.
Chrisman.
Katanning.
Anyway,
No,
coming
say
out of Red
Katanning.
School, coming out of senior high Red School, there was you, but even
Yeah.
before you, there were a couple. Like I said, Cameron Smith was definitely the TV kid.
Oh, yeah.
Austin Toy was
Yeah.
a TV kid. You know, Corey,
Yeah.
even though he was probably more of an art kid at the time, he was still also you know, like there were
Yeah.
TV kids. But when we came here, it's like all of that kind of fell off the wayside. I had to start all over again. You know what I mean? So I think that the facilities in and of itself presents opportunities that just did not exist before. But I also think that the opportunities that Joey and Haley have, a lot of it has to deal with how well Hannah Hoffman and David Damrath and others, but
There's a foundation.
kind
that
of
they
built
helped lay.
before, you know what I mean, to kind of like solidify that to give them a place to stand in the first place.
Well,
Katanning Senior High School.
yeah, thank you. Because I was literally about to say, he'll say Red School and Purple School. He's talking about Red School being Katanning, and then Purple School being, what's that place again? I think it's torn
Ford
down.
City.
Yeah, it's a pile of rubble now.
No.
Hey, the junior high's in the same state.
Yeah.
Yeah, I know.
That's
but,
our home.
they'll-
That's
yeah,
our real
yeah,
the red side
Yeah,
home.
they'll get there. But yeah, besides like, because I have nothing really to say that wouldn't be like egotistical and things like that, because I'm pretty cool like that. No. But yeah, I would say like Cameron Smith and them, I saw all their videos whenever I was in TV production, and Miklos showed it to us. And I would even say like those guys made me take it a little bit more seriously just starting out, because I saw what they did and I was like, that's awesome. Like they did the hallway etiquette.
Hallway etiquette was
that was so
lasted
funny.
forever
Yeah,
at Red School.
it was-
They showed
it was
that
so
year after
funny.
year after. Faculty
Yeah.
asked for that one.
Yeah,
You need to
it-
show that video again, that old Cam Smith video.
It's so good. It's just so good. But besides that, is there anything you guys want to say, just as like a closing word? Just a little John Krasinski shoulder shrug. All right, Joey, if you can come to my camera, I'm gonna end the show like we always do. This is the last one of season 1. I know it's so sad, and I'm gonna cry. But sometimes things in life show up unexpectedly, and right now, for me, it's a job that I'll probably soon be starting, and it's going to get in the way of a couple things and just life in general. So we're ending the first season today, but don't worry, we'll be back with season 2 soon enough, and we thank you for watching every single one of these episodes. If you've watched every single one of the episodes, for you guys who haven't, you're lacking. Go back and watch it. But yeah, I'm talking. But if you've stuck with us this whole time, yeah, they didn't even get you. But if you stuck with us this whole time, we thank you for everything that you guys have done for us by watching the videos and supporting us and sharing everything. And we'll see you guys soon with another episode and another guest. Thanks.